Hello, good morning everyone. Welcome to today's class. I am your instructor Saikat Chakraborty. You can call me Sai. And today we'll be continuing with our discussion of acids and bases. So let's move over to the whiteboard where we will just do a brief recap of last class and then continue with today's topic. I hope all of you are able to see the board. So in the last class we discussed what's an acid, what's a base. Like if you take an example of an acid, hydrochloric acid, HCl. So it dissociates to give you 8 plus or protons and Cl minus. So an acid can dissociate to give protons. Similarly, a base, let's take an example, sodium hydroxide. A base can dissociate to give OH minus or hydroxide ions. Now, that's not the exhaustive definition. An acid can also be defined as something that reacts with hydroxide ion or a base. A base correspondingly can be defined as something that reacts with a proton. So a base can be defined as a proton acceptor. We will look into more of these reactions and their definitions in the later classes. But this is what we studied in the last class. And we also talked about the pH, how we measure acidity. So pH is defined as negative logarithm of H plus, right? So what does this values mean? So we can define pH with respect to certain values, like we know that for an acid, that's what we learned, that for an acid, the pH is less than 7. For a base, the pH is greater than 7. So 0 to 7 for acid, 7 to 14 for base, and also at neutral pH, that is defined at pH 7. pH 7, that's the neutral pH. So this is what we studied in last class. And one more thing that we did was about strong acid. Let's keep the example of HCl. So HCl is a strong acid. Now what does that mean? A strong acid means complete dissociation. And that's why we indicate it by a forward arrow. That means all of this hydrochloric acid dissociate to give H plus and Cl minus. So that's why it's a strong acid that undergoes complete dissociation. What if an acid is not strong? That's what is the topic of today's discussion. What if it's a weak acid that cannot dissociate completely? What happens in that case? Let's take a generic example, HA, that dissociates to give you H plus and A minus. So that's a weak acid. Weak acid means incomplete dissociation. So why is it incomplete dissociation? So it can be that the weak acid HA, not all the molecules of HA dissociate to give you H plus and A minus. It partially dissociates. Some molecules dissociate, some does not. So then you have an equilibrium that is being established between the products and the reactant. Because part of HA is dissociated, giving you H plus and A minus, part of it which remains undissociated, and also some of the H plus and A minus can combine and undergo the reverse reaction. So there are a lot of reasons as to why this happens, which again we will cover in more details in the class. Like why certain things happen, why is it partially dissociating, and we will compare different acids. But for now, just see that if it remains incompletely dissociated, then it's a weak acid, and there exists an equilibrium between the products and the reactants. Now, because there is an equilibrium, we can now write out an equilibrium constant expression, which is concentration of the products over the reactants. And we define this concentration equilibrium constant as Ka because it's for the acid dissociation. So this is what it looks for a weak acid. Now, similar to the definition of pH of negative logarithm of H plus, we can also define pKa. pKa is basically the negative logarithm of Ka that you see over here. Right? Now, what does this mean for a weak acid? So, even though the acid is weak, but we'll soon see some examples, the relative strength between different weak acids might vary, and that is something that we can predict or tell by with respect to the pKa and the Ka values. So if this acid is dissociating, that means what? The concentration of the products are increasing, H plus and A minus are increasing. So that means what? The value of Ka keeps increasing, right? Now, since pKa is defined as negative logarithm of Ka, that means the pKa value decreases. So more the weak acid dissociates, more of the product is being formed. That means the equilibrium constant increases. That means the pKa value decreases. So let's look at some examples to make it more clear. Let's take the example of hydrofluoric acid, HF. And we will list their pKa values. For hydrofluoric acid, the pKa value is around 3.2. Correspondingly, if at all we were to measure the pKa for HCl, remember the concept of pKa is more important for a weak acid where there exists an equilibrium because the acid is partially dissociated. In the case of a strong acid, it's not really important to measure the pKa because it undergoes a forward reaction. It's completely dissociated. And because it undergoes complete dissociation, pKa value for HCl is very low. It's at -7. And let's look at one final example, which is vinegar that is used in different food. So one of the important components of vinegar is acetic acid, right? So acetic acid is given by this formula, CH3COOH. This is acetic acid. And acetic acid dissociates to give you CH3CO minus and H plus. And the pKa value for acetic acid is around 4.7. So if you look at these three examples, what do you see? pKa value for HCl is the least. It's the strongest acid. It completely dissociates. Followed by the pKa value of hydrofluoric acid, 3.2, which is higher than HCl. So that means HF, hydrofluoric acid, is a weaker acid than HCl. And that's why its pKa value is higher. Because remember, pKa value high means what? That means the Ka value is low. That means less of the product is being formed, which means less number of protons. And that's why the pKa value is higher. Now, among these series, the acetic acid is the weakest acid because it has a pKa value of 4.7. That means it's even weaker than hydrofluoric acid. Its pKa is 4.7. That means even less amount of acetic acid dissociates, which means you will get less protons, and that's why it is a weaker acid. It is the weakest acid in this series. So that's the general idea of the application of pKa and how that relates to the acidity and the different strength of the weak acids. So we will continue more with this discussion of whether how the pKa can help us predict and why are some acids weak and some acids strong. For those, we will look into the structural properties. But so far what we covered today, let me know if you have any questions. You can reach me by email and drop during my office hours. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. And that's it for today. Bye.